But, I don't want to criticize him because he showed up when they really needed him. And I'll just say, looking at the Florida series, for them to have any chance, you need a lot more from Pastrnak. And I'll just jump to it. That's our big question today about what is the biggest factor for this Bruins team. For me, it's Pastrnak. Who is Pastrnak going to be going forward? Is he going to be the guy with the big contract who has more points in the regular season, more goals than anybody else on the ice by far? Or is he going to be the guy that just disappears in the playoffs? That just disappears, that it becomes less of a factor, has some weird injury from celebrations or something like that. Some excuse that comes out after the fact or they hint at throughout. I'm done with that. He needs to graduate, to quote Jaylen Brown. For them to have a chance, look at what happened with the last series. Swayman was fantastic every single game. He was great. He was nails. And your offense could not show up, and Pastrnak should be the driver of your offense.
Okay, so we can get to the big question, and it's up now at Jones and Mego. What is the biggest factor for the Bruins against the Panthers? The goalie decision, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, or getting revenge on this Panthers team? Really the collapse hanging over their head from last year. Did they get better from it? Do they need to exercise that demon? Again, you can vote there. You can weigh in on the phones. But I want to stick with Pastrnak for a second. The numbers in Game 7s are pretty good. That's his fourth goal in a Game 7. Now, he's only .500 now in those Game 7s. He's 3-3. All of the wins are against the Leafs, which is, again, classic this Bruins team against that Maple Leafs team. It was significant who they were going against and who they were playing. Every other single team in the NHL, I probably would have picked the other team when the Bruins lost Games 5 and 6. I wasn't going to do that with Toronto on the other side. I've seen that story. But Pastrnak now has a decent big game track record going on when it comes to some of these Game 7s, and I don't think we should dismiss that. And I think it's important that he stepped up in that game and he got the winner. You want to say he was invisible for most of it? Fine. I don't know what he finished with, 4 or 5 shots on goal, something like that. Didn't feel like he was dominating the game by any means, and it took him until overtime to get on the scoreboard. But that's also a massive goal, and you hope they ride that momentum going forward.
Yeah, you definitely do, and he's my guy too. He was what I voted in the poll as well, because I think that this team's going to go as far as he takes them. Jeremy Swayman was great in that first round. He was his best goalie, best player maybe in the NHL in that first round of playoff hockey, and they still went 7 games with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who didn't play some spectacular series. They weren't buzzing around there, flying around, but lighting up the scoreboard. It was a lot of very close 2-1 games, things like that. And that's because David Pastrnak didn't show up, really until the very, very end. And listen, it was timely, and he may have that clutch gene that you look for, but we're also talking about the guy with Game 7 plays that you remember has also been the best player on this team that chokes every year. So, I mean, it's also, you have to take into account the whole thing. He's been part of this, just like Marchand's been part of it, just like Bergeron was part of it, and Krejci and Tuukka and everybody else. Pastrnak was along for those rides, too. So it really is about him leveling up and going to that next level, and he should be there. It shouldn't be a team trying to help out their goalie who's playing well. They should be rallying around him. He should be the one that they're looking to. He should be the one that's setting the tone, and when you have goalie play like that, to have your top scorer disappear is really disappointing. They're lucky to have gone on to the next round. He needs to show up.
Okay, so these guys both say Pastrnak. You can vote at Jones and Mego. You can dial us up, 617-779-7937. What's the biggest factor for the Bruins against the Panthers? I think it's the goalie decision, and here's why. It should be easy. Are they going to screw it up? Are they going to screw it up? It sounds like it's Swayman tonight in Game 1. We all listened to him down the hall on McAfee earlier today. Ullmark was the last one off at morning skate. He was going off with all the other perceived healthy scratches. So it looks like it's going to be Swayman tonight. Is he going to keep the net? He should keep the net. And here's why I'm concerned about it. I've seen these numbers flying around. Linus Ullmark this year against Florida. Regular season numbers. 3-0. Swayman beat Florida in his only matchup against them as well. But 3-0. He allowed 162 goals against, 947 save percentage. And Swayman got, he gave up 3 goals in the one game he was out there. The Bruins won 4-3. 2 of Ullmark's wins were in overtime. Regular season games. Fine. They need to get that right. And I've said consistently, I don't want to go back to Ullmark. Swayman was not great in Game 7 last year, at least on the raw numbers. But Ullmark got benched. Ullmark was horrendous against Florida last year. 334 goals against, 896 save percentage. He lost 3 games against Florida. He lost the job. Like he lost the job the postseason before. When I say the goalie decision, the only decision to make is sticking with Swayman. I don't really see what the debate is or why they would go away from it. And I don't see why 3 random regular season games would outweigh what we saw in the postseason last year, what we all saw in the postseason last year, coupled with what Swayman just did in this first round, which was Tim Thomas-esque. I'm sure you've seen the numbers going around. In a series that's gone at least 6 or 7 games, he had the highest save percentage since Tim Thomas in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Vancouver Canucks. It was that kind of series for Swayman. You can't go away from him. I hope they don't, but there's still a little piece of me that wonders if they will. So that's important. You're not winning if you don't get that type of performance out of Swayman all over again.
It looks like it looks like Swayman's going to be in net tonight, that I don't think they're going to try to pull the move of get Ullmark out there first, and then you can go to Swayman, and then you can call it, hey, Swayman needs an extra day of rest because of the quick turnaround from the series. Like, that's a reason that they could have used, and if they wanted support, the numbers are out there to support it from the regular season, the same way that the numbers supported playing Swayman against Toronto because of the way he matched up against them in the regular season. To your point, I think playoff hockey is a totally different matchup. So I don't think that those are as, I don't know, that they translate as well. But I think that you see Swayman going in net first now. I just don't see how they do any kind of rotation.
So let's play it out. So the Bruins lose game 1.
Because I never saw Swayman having the series that he had against
Let's play it
Toronto.
out. The Bruins lose game 1. Do you want to go away from Swayman?
Like?
Do you want to go away from Swayman and risk going down 0-2?
I don't.
Me neither.
No.
The Bruins win game 1. Do you want to risk the series being even going back to bottom? Me either. So I don't see how you do the rotation, and yet those numbers are flying around.
I think the rotation could have only made sense in some kind of way that they could explain away by having Ullmark in there and saying it's about rest, which would have been dumb, by the way, because even though Swayman hasn't really done that before long term, he's, 25 years old? Mm-hmm. I mean, his legs will be fine. His legs will be fine. You don't need to worry about
and he only played half the season. That's the whole reason you keep somebody fresh, isn't it? Like,
thank you.
You have 2 goalies. You alternate all season long to keep one fresh. Now we're at the playoffs and he's fresh, and everyone's like, well, he could be fresher. Like, let's give him a day off. He doesn't want a day off. You hear him after these games. What's he saying? Oh, I'm tired? No, he's saying I want to be in the crease. This is my net. I've been waiting for this, and he should. I don't think he's the Conn Smythe favorite right now. Okay, you're right. He's playing better than any player in the league, not just any goalie, any player. You don't just sit that guy for no reason. No, I don't think. Exactly, Bill. Exactly. Until he gives you a reason to, or if he tweaks something, or if he goes to Montgomery and says, I'm exhausted and I need a night off, which I don't think he'll do. But that's the only reason you put an Ullmark. And if you have to put an Ullmark, I think those numbers make me feel better about having to have to do that. But you don't do it unless you have to.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going away from him, but they better make the right decision. I hope they make the right decision. Will they be tempted if they lose tonight? How does it look, as Mego said? Will they be tempted if they win tonight? They go, hey, we're up 1-0 on this team. We have a little bit of wiggle room. Let's roll Ullmark out there and get Swayman ready for game 3. I hope they don't do that, but to me, that's the biggest factor.